Research that resonates.
Schweizer has not been wrong on any of his years and years of reporting on the Bidens.
Investigations that matter.
If your last name wasn't Biden, do you think you would have been asked to be on the board of Burisma?
I don't know. Probably not. But that's, I don't think that there's a lot of things that would have happened in my life that if my last name wasn't Biden.
The only entities, the only people that would report on this, and Peter Schweizer, who deserves a Medal of Freedom, in my view.
This is The Drill Down with Peter Schweizer.
Hi, this is Peter Schweizer, and welcome to The Drill Down, where we relentlessly expose cronyism, corruption, and the abuse of power in Washington, D.C. The co-host of this program, of course, is Eric Eggers. And last night, of course, was the presidential debate. And we have kind of this weird way in which we approach a debate night, which is you watch it, you're engaged, you're focused. I hate watching debates. I don't watch debates. So I was watching a French language murder mystery, and I was watching on social media, and I was getting text updates from you. That's what our debate experience was like. And we're going to answer very important questions today, Eric, like, are they actually eating ducks in Ohio?
Yeah.
Is Kamala Harris the Muhammad Ali of presidential politics? We're going to break down the debate today. What is your initial reaction to what happened and the biggest challenge that occurred during this debate?
That you were just more honest in the introduction to this podcast by admitting to America that the man whose research has led to the election and impeachment of presidents doesn't actually watch these momentous. I mean, why aren't you watching the debate? It's not like the last one mattered, right? It was one of the biggest moments in American political history. No, instead, he's curled up under his banky with his cup of hot tea.
No banky.
Watching Inspector LaRue.
Well, here's the reason I don't. I get too emotionally wrapped up in the debate. I get angry when something stupid is said by a candidate. I get angry when somebody lies, and I probably get the most angry at the moderators. I mean, a moderator is supposed to be between the two. They moderate the debate.
I thought you were going to say moderate, yeah.
And it looked like three dudes jumped one guy in the alley based on what I've seen. So,
which ironically also happened in your French detective show last night. So you kind of were there by proxy.
But no baguettes.
Yeah.
There were no baguettes
now,
at the debate last night.
To your point, you actually called this because this is a factoid you've been sitting on for a little bit. We knew the debate was going to be on ABC, and you had concerns from the beginning because one of the things that you've been aware of as you've documented Kamala Harris's trends, her benefactors, some of the scandals, and Disney's highest-ranking TV executive, a woman named Dana Walden, has been a very good friend to Kamala Harris for a long time.
Yeah, she's been a campaign donor. She gave money to the Biden campaign in 2022. She is considered one of Kamala Harris's best friends. She introduced Kamala Harris to her husband, and she's donated to Kamala's campaigns going back to 2003. Every election since then, she's donated.
That's 2 decades if you're scoring at home.
Exactly. And here's why this is important, by the way, because notice what Disney's response when this was brought up. It was, she does not exert editorial control over ABC News. Now, she runs ABC News. ABC News is under her authority, but she does not exert editorial control, which is ridiculous because she, of course, is going to determine who actually the moderators are. She is going to offer opinion and advice on what should be covered. So that's what you have to start with in the beginning, the way that the deck was stacked. And I have to say, it was unbelievable to me how the moderators intervened in fact-checking of only one candidate in this debate.
Yeah, by the way, one of the moderators, there's David Muir, who I have to say, as biased as he may have been, that is just a handsome man. His chin, like you could use to cut the baguettes that they ate in your TV show. But his co-moderator is a woman named Lindsay Davis. Now, I didn't realize this, but I actually saw this today, and I haven't seen this reported anywhere else. But Lindsay Davis, it's just a fact, is a member of the Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. It's this historic African-American sorority. You know who else is a member of this famous sorority? That would be Vice President Kamala Harris. So you have the network is run by one of her very good friends, longtime benefactor, and one of the people asking questions just is part of this same kind of culturally significant sorority as one of the candidates. It's worth pointing out, and in that context, maybe then the treatment, the lack of follow-ups to one candidate, the bizarre follow-ups to Donald Trump makes a little bit more sense in that context.
Yeah, that's right. Let's listen to an audio clip. This is one. There were, I believe, 4 major fact checks of Donald Trump. I'll put that in quotation marks because the facts are absolutely in dispute, and we're going to talk about that. But here's an example of David Muir fact-checking Donald Trump on a statement he made. And Trump says, I was joking, I was being sarcastic. And listen to what David Muir says.
Mr. President, for 3.5 years after you lost the 2020 election, you repeatedly falsely claimed that you won, many times saying you won in a landslide. In the past couple of weeks leading up to this debate, you have said, quote, you lost by a whisker, that you, quote, didn't quite make it, that you came up a little bit short.
I said that?
Are you now acknowledging that you lost in 2020?
No, I don't acknowledge that at all.
But
I
you
said
did
that
say
sarcastically.
That.
You know that. It was said, oh, we lost by a whisker. That was said sarcastically.
So that's one example of the kind of fact check we got of Donald Trump, which is he's making his statements about the 2020 election.
And by the way, that fact check is actually a question, because the question was, have you changed your position on whether or not you believe the 2020 election was stolen? Which just the fact that that question is being posed in this debate is significant, because it's sort of a lose-lose. It's not sort of, it is a lose-lose for Donald Trump. Either he admits that he's changed his position on whether the 2020 election was, in his words, stolen, which suggests that he's a flip-flopper, or he hasn't changed his position, which means he continues to, according to the media, repeat baseless claims about whether or not the 2020 election was stolen. We have documented, a lot of people have raised very significant questions, whether it was stolen illegally or rigged legally. I think a lot of people, the point is, the 2020 election was unlike any other that's ever been happened in this country. He has continued to raise questions about it. David Moore used that as a way to kind of trap him as one example. And then he follows up with this bizarre, well, I didn't detect any sarcasm.
Yeah, and here's the thing, by the way. Certainly you can ask these questions, but, gee, haven't we talked about the 2020 election now for 4 years?
Yeah.
Isn't it well known what Trump's view is on the 2020 election? It's the same thing with January 6th. I mean, I get it, but it's like so yesterday. Interesting fact, by the way, this 90-minute debate, 13 minutes was actually spent on the economy, which is the number one issue of voter concerns. Instead, they were talking about these issues from the past. But so a lot of fact-checking of Donald Trump, exclusively of Donald Trump. Mm-hmm. Were there issues where Kamala Harris might have not been telling the truth and blatantly lying, and was she fact-checked?
She was not fact-checked by her sorority sister or by David Muir. She was fact-checked by a number of other media outlets after the fact. Breitbart has a great article up today in which they note 21 times in which Kamala Harris basically told something that wasn't true, and she was not fact-checked on at all. She repeated this lie about that Donald Trump said that there were very fine people in Charlottesville. We talk about like bringing up things from yesterday.
Right.
And really think about this. The common thread in multiple things is there's this inherent racist thing, right? Like, why would you bring up Charlottesville if you're Kamala Harris unless you're trying to make the point that you think Donald Trump is and supports racists?
Yeah.
By the way, we'll talk. You mentioned the ducks and the cats in Ohio. That also apparently is somehow a racist. I would say dog whistle, but it's apparently a cat and goose whistle.
It's a cat whistle.
We'll get to that. But yeah, so she said that Donald Trump said the thing about very fine people on both sides in Charlottesville. Right. That's clearly not true.
Right.
She said he was going to be a dictator on day one. That wasn't true.
Right.
Then there's the bloodbath line. And
You're talking about the auto industry was going to suffer a bloodbath. She said that's a threat. That was a threat of violence.
Yeah.
She was not fact on that. Abortion. This was an interesting one.
The abortion monitor that he's going to appoint. And by the way, abortion is one of those things that wasn't followed up on.
Right.
She never really answered the question of whether or not she would support a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy up until live birth.
Right.
She accused him of wanting to pass a national ban on abortion, which he said multiple times, I would not do. There is no need to do it. And this idea that they're going to appoint some abortion monitor to monitor pregnancies and make sure that they happen and that miscarriages would be criminalized is another one of the claims she makes that there is no evidence to support, but that was not followed up by the moderators.
Yeah, and it's amazing on the abortion debate, by the way, and you can have a healthy debate about it, of course, is that the focus is always on what is the earliest point at which the Republicans want to ban abortion. Mm-hmm. But they never ask the question or challenge the Democrat candidate, what is the latest in which you will allow an abortion? And to your point, Trump brought this up in the debate, asked Kamala Harris. He said, abortion at 7 months, abortion at 9 months. And her response was, oh, come on.
Right.
That was literally her response.
Not only was that her response, the follow-up was from Lindsay Davis, who said, this is one of the many fact checks towards Donald Trump. See, these are the things you miss while you're out there watching people drinking the Merlot.
I've got it all locked in my head right here.
She goes, there is no state where it is legal in this country to kill a baby after it's born. Lindsay Davis said that in response to Donald Trump's claim.
True?
Not true. Guess where it happens to not be especially not true?
California?
Yeah, Minnesota, the state represented by Kamala Harris's running mate Tim Walz. Under a 2015 Minnesota law, the state was formally required to report whether abortions resulted in the live birth of a baby. And then what happens is doctors decline to provide assistance to those births, even if potentially they try to abort the baby still comes out alive. The reporting requirements exposed that from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2021, 5 abortions were performed that resulted in a baby's live birth. And previous data from the Minnesota Department of Health has revealed that physicians have been leaving babies to die after failed abortions for years.
Yeah. And so, look, you can have a view on the abortion debate, and it's obviously highly contentious. But the point is, why is there no fact checking on this side of this? And why is there no interest in, there's the interest in are Republicans at 5 weeks or Republicans at 15 weeks? There's no interest is when do Democrats say it's too late to have an abortion before birth? They never ask that question. It's an example of the kind of bias that was pretty evident. It was a 3-on-1 fight last night. No question about it.
Fight. You know what there was interest in, though, by the part of the moderators. Apparently, instead of talking to Minnesota Department of Health officials, David Muir, one of the prominent journalists in this country, apparently what he did do is he spoke to the city manager in Springfield, Ohio.
Now, this is the duck story.
This is but I'm saying he literally said, well, I've spoken with the city manager in Springfield, Ohio, and let me tell you, they said there's no evidence of this. How we even got there is weird, and it actually does speak to the one thing Kamala Harris did do quite well and skillfully during the debate. She goaded Donald Trump. To be very clear, it's a television show. You asked whether or not you think Kamala Harris is the Muhammad Ali of politics. Why?
Because of rope-a-dope. Right, this was the famous strategy.
Hang on, you got to remember now, because you got to let younger people.
I'm going to explain. I'm going to explain rope-a-dope. And by the way, I have to go on record. My favorite boxer of that era was Joe Frazier, Joltin' Joe Frazier. Much better in my mind than Muhammad Ali. But Ali had the rope-a-dope tactic, and that was during the fight. At one point, he would start leaning back on the ropes, and this is usually an indication that you are in trouble. You're either injured or you're tired. Ali would do it as a tactic to get the other boxer, Joe Frazier, he used it against him, to say, I'm tired. And Joe Frazier would say, I'm going to go in and go after them. Here's why I'm asking, is Kamala Harris the Muhammad Ali of presidential politics? Not because she's the greatest presidential candidate of all time, which many people argue about Ali, but it's because have they been employing the rope-a-dope? Because here's what I saw in the debate reaction. I saw a lot of people in MAGA world freaking out because they had been led to believe that Kamala Harris is a walking word salad. She's not capable of saying or doing everything. This is the rope-a-dope. So when she came there prepped and sort of robotically, I would argue, repeating talking lines, it seemed like she was a genius. She was the greatest orator since Cicero. So I think it was a designed plan to lower expectations. She came in with a plan, and it worked, and it was disciplined, and it was Trump who got sucked into the rope-a-dope. She didn't knock him out, but she did damage, I think, by employing this strategy. What do you think?
It's the same strategy, by the way, that Joe Biden successfully employed in 2020, because remember, back then it was like Joe Biden's old, he's sleepy Joe, and then he shows up at the first debate. He stays awake the whole time. He puts together a few sentences. He has like actual tenor and depth to his voice. They were like, oh man, look at this guy. He could go run a marathon. And so I think that, you outperformed the expectations. I think you're absolutely right about that. But I think one of the ways that she sucked him in, as an aside, I love the idea of young Schweizer watching Joe Frazier. Like, he's doing it again. This overly earnest, unsophisticated boxer is falling for it. I can't handle it. So I like just having the glimpse into your childhood. But
here's the thing you need to know, by the way, not to go into 1970s boxing, but Joe Frazier and Muhammad Ali were sort of the manifestation of the political divide.
Oh, yeah.
Because Muhammad Ali, dodged the draft. He was, very anti-American in a lot of things he said at that time.
Changed his name. His mama called him Cassius. I'm going to call him Cassius.
Yeah. By the way, the irony there, of course, is that Cassius Clay, she named him after a great abolitionist.
Absolutely.
And he changed his name to Muhammad Ali. Muhammad, of course, had slaves, but that's another story. But Joe Frazier was sort of the manifestation. He was, more conservative. He was pro-military. He supported the war in Vietnam. So that was kind of the manifestation of politics and boxing in the 1970s.
So what Kamala Harris did in very Muhammad Ali-like tactics is how she got Donald Trump to engage is she referenced the crowd size of his rallies. And she said, it's not that big. People leave early. And so that's what got Donald Trump to mention this bizarre Springfield, Ohio story. Right. And we say it's bizarre. Like the details of it are bizarre. The actual issue is quite significant to the country. So he and this, I think, he's kind of defensive. He's a little angry. But there's these memes going around about him leading. He's the savior of cats that Elon Musk has amplified. So I think it's like, my crowds aren't small. I love cats. Like I think that's what the switch he made, and that's why he brings up that Haitians are eating cats in Ohio, which led to, on a real American television network, David Muir saying there's no evidence that cats are being eaten by Haitian immigrants. Which
by the way, that's David Muir pretending to be Bob Woodward, right? Uh-huh. He had an aide get the city manager. The background on the story, though, we know is that there are residents who have claimed at city council meetings that people are eating ducks. There was a police report, I believe, that from Springfield that Haitians had taken a cat, and the person believed they were eating the cat.
I mean, here is David Muir actually letting us know he phoned the city manager in Ohio.
I just want to clarify here. You bring up Springfield, Ohio, and ABC News did reach out to the city manager there. He told us there have been no credible reports of specific claims of pets being harmed, injured, or abused by individuals within the immigrant community.
Well, I've seen people on television.
Let me just say here, this is the
people on television say my dog was taken and used for food. So maybe he said that, and maybe that's a good thing to say for a city manager.
I'm not taking this from television.
But the people
I'm
on
taking it from
television
the city
saying
manager.
their dog was eaten by the people that went there.
Again, the Springfield city manager says there's no evidence of that. Vice President Harris, I'll let you respond to the rest of what you've heard.
I mean, this is an actual police recording. Listen to this police recording of people, eyewitness testimony saying that this is a real problem.
Clark County Communications.
Oh, yes, ma'am. I got a question. This is a non-emergency line, correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. I'm sitting here. I'm riding on the trail going to my orientation for my job today, and I see a group of Haitian people. There was about 4 of them. They all had geese in their hand. They got away. I couldn't make out the first 3 of the license plate, but I got the numbers. The last number was 9898, and it was a gray Toyota Tacoma they took off on. There was about 4 of them. There was 2 men, 2 women. I couldn't tell the age because I'm in a hurry going to this orientation, so I don't be late.
What direction did they go?
They went up towards the middle of towards downtown.
Okay, and what path are you on?
Right now, hold on just a second. I'm coming to the intersection of. Give me a second here. It says Water and Warder Street.
Water and Warder. Is that the area you saw them?
Yes. It was about 2 minutes back behind me. I was trying to get my phone out and trying to make it to this orientation on time. I'm time crunching here. And I saw that. I'm like, yeah, this has got to be reported.
So how many geese did they have?
They each had 1. Now, the Toyota Tacoma did look like a newer model.
And what's your name, sir?
My name is... It's hot out here today.
I'm sorry, what's your last name again? Your phone number is that... Okay, we will put this out to our cars and see if we can't find them. Thank you so much for calling in.
You're welcome, and if I happen to see them again, I'll try to give you a call back and get a better license plate for you.
the point is, by David Muir saying, I call the city manager, who, by the way, is in charge of the refugee program, is some sort of like deep dive investigative journalism. And then because he talked to the city manager, he presents that as fact. No, there's no evidence of this. Just shows you how terrible American journalism is today.
But what he didn't say there is evidence of, because we know it's true, is that the population in Springfield, Ohio, has increased by roughly a third in the last 4 years. It's a population of 60,000 people. 15 to 20,000 migrants have been located there the last 4 years. There has been a massive influx and increase in crime, other types of issues there, not the least of which, I mean, whether you think cat eating is happening or not, what definitely happened is an 11-year-old boy died when a Haitian immigrant lost control of a minivan he was driving and crashed into a bus that caused this massive accident. So this is one of a number of very serious things. And the point of it is not about cats. It's about the immigrant influx into this country that the Biden-Harris administration have overseen. That was a serious issue. Yeah. It probably should have been litigated in a serious way by Donald Trump instead of referencing cats being eaten by Haitian immigrants. By the way, but if you look into the story, one of the things you see is like lots of fact checks, lots of saying there's no evidence. It's used as a racist dog whistle because of the influx of these Haitian things. Guess what else they say that about? The Venezuelans going into Colorado. So people say, oh, did these Venezuelans take over this Colorado apartment complex? Well, they didn't take it over. Yeah. But what absolutely is happening...
they were walking around with firearms in the hallway.
Yeah, gang leaders have taken over these places. They're there, and they're causing shootouts and stuff. And it's because of the massive migrant influx into the Aurora, Colorado community, just as they did in Springfield, Ohio. Springfield, Ohio, by the way, as one of our producers points out, not an accident, 23% win for Donald Trump in Clark County, Ohio. Oh, wow. So they're picking places where they're putting these migrant populations.
Oh, that's amazing. That's amazing. And by the way, the way the media does this fact check, it would be as if, think about it this way, whether the duck thing is true or not, the larger issue is true. It would be like if I went and punched you and robbed you, and you said, you punched me, kicked me, and robbed me. And I said, that's a lie. I never kicked you. Yeah. The underlying thing that's happening is true. And the point is that there is a massive increase in violent crimes in these areas. There is a massive problem with petty crimes in these areas. And for them to think that they should just dismiss it by saying, well, I talked to the city manager and the duck eating part is not true, so we're not going to worry about the other stuff, and the question is, do you think people see through that?
I mean, it's a television show, by the way, and that's the point too. You said, is she the Muhammad Ali? Yeah. Muhammad Ali, for whatever it's worth, 6'3", right? This just speaks to the other way that they kind of tilted the playing scale. 6'3" is exactly how tall Donald Trump is. Kamala Harris, depending upon which profile you believe, is somewhere between 5'2" and 5'4". So, but around a foot shorter. But if you looked at just the split screen, she actually was slightly taller because of like how they positioned her head on the thing. Right. So, yeah. People can see what was presented to them. I think for the casual viewers, the split screen was not favorable to Donald Trump. He looked angry. His voice was elevated. Right. Yep. She seemed cool, calm, and collected. I think at one point she even attempted to do the Gene Wilder meme of like the hand to the chin type thing. Like, oh, tell me more, you crazy rambling old man. But but those are among the things that the TV screen has changed so much. Just shows you why they did what they did. That was my big takeaway. The debate last time, you saw the split screen, Donald Trump won by a landslide. That's when you knew Joe Biden had to get out. Right. Joe Biden stands, mouth agape, eyes vacant, looking nowhere. Right. Donald Trump's cool, calm, collected, poised. Now you have Donald Trump angry, Kamala Harris. That the face has changed, the posture's changed, the age, the generation. They swapped out the character, and now they're winning, and that's why they did it. Which again speaks to like the largest issue that Donald Trump, to me, why he failed, is you have now somebody who's in charge of the country in Joe Biden, who we've been told can't be a candidate because of cognitive decline. How long has she known that? Right. That did not get discussed at all. No. The biggest scandal in American political history doesn't get touched at all. Instead, we talk about Haitians and cats.
Yeah. No, you're right. You're exactly right about that. The other larger question, though, we have to ask is this going to actually affect the election? So, lots of different opinions on this. I happen to think in this day and age where you have social media, Trump's giving rallies, there's all kinds of stories circulating. It's not like the old Kennedy-Nixon debate in 1960s, right, where Kennedy famously got the tan. He looked young. He looked, energetic. Nixon looked, white and pasty. I think those days are gone. I think in debates you can certainly hurt yourself severely, as we saw Joe Biden do. But I think if you look back, Trump's not a great debater. He's good at certain lines, but he has kind of a scattered approach. He's not a terribly disciplined person. You look back at some of the famous debates, George W. Bush against Al Gore. Al Gore probably in pure debate, style probably did well. But at the end of the day, people are picking a president. They're not picking a debater. It's not like you're going to sit down with cue cards and debate Vladimir Putin and convince him to leave Ukraine. It's about the exercise of power. And we'll see what the polls show. Early indications, Reuters had a focus group. It was only of 10 people, but a focus group, very interesting, of 10 people who were undecided. After the debate, interesting to me, 6 of the 10 said they were now leaning towards Trump. When they were undecided before. 3 said they were now for Harris. 1 was still undecided. And the 6 Trump voters said, he might have done this or done that, but she was not giving any specifics. So you, I think at the end of the day, have to put some trust in voters that they're seeing the atmospherics, they're seeing the smirks, they're seeing the angers, they're seeing the references to ducks. At the end of the day, they're wondering who's actually got a plan to improve the economy. And I think a lot of voters do look for that.
I want to say I think Reuters is stretching the definition of a focus group. Like 10 people, that's like an Uber rideshare. That's like, really, guys? that's a group text, okay? Like
it might have been done by group text.
That's what I'm saying. I think we're like letting Reuters slide on that one. It's interesting though. You referenced the 1960 presidential debate, and I think that's like maybe the best point to kind of end on is like we're focused on there's the aesthetics, there's the substance, the media clearly, David Muir, Lindsay Davis, ABC News clearly tried to put their thumb on the scale. But remember the thing about Richard Nixon and JFK's debate, the people that watched it thought that JFK did very well for exactly what you said, the tan, Richard Nixon sweating. But the people that listened to it on the radio, which a lot of people did, thought Nixon cleaned his clock.
Right.
And so the point is it's possible to come away from these things with very different takes. And the Reuters focus group or group text does suggest that on substance, maybe a lot more people thought Donald Trump had a better night than a lot of the media coverage after the fact is suggesting.
Yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting to watch. Of course, we're always interested in the issues of institutions. And I think in this particular case, we saw the continued breakdown of American media, which now has approval ratings that are on par with Congress. Which is pretty terrible. And I think this is probably only going to add to the decline of that as an institution that people haven't trust in. And then, of course, they've got to ask themselves, is it actually worth it? Is what we're doing to our brand and reputation worth it in terms of their goal of, I think, propping up certain candidates, which is what they seem interested in doing.
So let me ask you this in closing, because you used to say, back a long time ago, you would say, well, I'm not very good at predictions. But that's clearly not true anymore because you are crushing the prediction game. You called Joe Biden getting out of the race. I'm just saying your predictions lately have been pretty good. You've also called that Joe Biden will pardon Hunter Biden. We'll see if that happens, but things seem like they're shifting that way. Kamala Harris has been reported has challenged Donald Trump to a second debate. Do you think there will be a second presidential debate?
I think there probably will, but I think what Trump's position should be is this would be my position based on the performance of the moderators. We did one with CNN. We've done one with ABC. Now we need to do one with Fox. And I don't think Kamala Harris will go with that. She needs, you talked about my blankie. She needs the blankie. She needs the blankie, 2 blankies of the moderators to protect her. And that worked very, very well because they effectively ran interference for her. So I think it's doubtful we're actually going to get a debate. I think Trump should insist on that. I think doing another debate with yet another group of mainstream moderators who are going to do the same thing. I mean, here's the thing. The horse is out of the barn. I mean, the moderators have now done it. They might as well go all in.
Right.
They're not going to feel any constraint of picking specifically on his issues and ignoring the mistakes that she's making or the lies that she's telling. And so it's only going to be worse, I think, in the next debate than it has been in this one.
Speaking of fact checks, I just want to point out to the audience that while Peter Schweizer may prefer French detective shows over actually watching debates in real time, he doesn't just bring his expertise as a #1 New York Times bestselling author and someone who's long chronicled corruption at the federal government. You are also a champion debater.
I was actually, golly, 1984.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 84 or 85? I don't remember. We were second in college debate nationals.
And that may seem like a long time ago, yet it's much more current to your reference to 70s boxing or 60s presidential TV debate. So
it is. And by the way,
bringing things up to date.
Here's the thing I learned about debate very, very quickly, and it's true. It's in presidential debates and everything. Debate is ultimately not about getting to the truth. If you're the debater, the goal is to win. And I think if you watch the debate last night, this was not the Socratic method of trying to arrive at the truth. What's really going on in Springfield, Ohio? How do we really fix the economy? No. It's not at all about that. And that's a reminder, I think, to everyone. So we appreciate you, as always, tuning in. We don't always cover debates, but we felt it was important to do so. We want you to tell us things that that you think we should be investigating. So please reach out on our website and do so. Please go to thedrilldown.com where you can see some of the research and work that we're doing. Look for our books. Eric's done a great book on election fraud. I've written books on corruption. You can find those everywhere. And please, please, please subscribe to this podcast. We appreciate it, as always, that you take the time to listen. Until next time, thanks.